Another day, another recruiting miss for Texas. What does Jalen Lott committing to Oregon mean for the Longhorns? And will the Horns finally get some good news on the recruiting trail tonight? We'll talk about it on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and remember to leave a comment. That's one of the fastest ways to help us grow right here on Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use Locked On College as the promo code for $20 off your first purchase. Testing a new camera, testing some new microphone settings today. So would love to hear from y'all on how everything looks and how everything sounds. But that's not why you are here. We're going to spend a lot of today's show ranking the 10 most important Longhorns for the upcoming 2025 season. But first, the latest with Texas recruiting. We'll start with some bad news before we preview what hopefully turns into good news for Texas tonight. Earlier today, four-star athlete Jalen Lott announced his commitment to Oregon. We saw this one coming. We've been talking about this a lot here on Locked On Longhorns, but it still hurts. Number one, because Jalen Lott is a great player. Number two, Jalen Lott is a Texas legacy. Both of his parents played sports at UT. His dad is in the Longhorn Hall of Honor for track. He also played football. His mom played college basketball here at Texas. You always want to keep the in-state kids in state. You really want to get those legacies, and it's the second legacy miss for Texas in the last week. Of course, Caden Finley, son of former Texas tight end Jermichael Finley, feel old yet, committed to Notre Dame. Now Jalen Lott, the son of a couple of Texas parents, has announced his commitment to Oregon. Been reporting for a while that the Ducks had a significantly bigger and better NIL deal than Texas. And look, Oregon is also really good. This isn't a Felix Ojo thing where, the kid wasn't even considering this school, but because he got a bag dropped on his front porch, he's like, oh yeah, no, I'll go there. No, Oregon has a lot of things going for them. There are plenty of reasons to like Oregon. And then you throw in the extra dough on top of it. I understand Jalen Lott's decision. He talked a lot about wanting to create his own legacy, not wanting to be in the shadows of his parents, wanting to start his own thing. And obviously he gets the opportunity to do that at Oregon. So tough loss for Texas. Again, a supreme talent, an in-state kid, a Texas legacy. For all of those reasons, you would have loved Jalen Lott to have ended up in Austin, but he commits to Oregon earlier today. We'll see if Texas stays in on this recruitment or if Jalen Lott decides to shut things down. But this thing has been trending the Ducks' way for a while, and they're able to get the pickup today. Texas currently has 2.5 wide receivers committed for the class of 2026. Lott is listed as an athlete. He is more than likely going to play wide receiver at Oregon. He would have more than likely played wide receiver at Texas too. So we'll talk about the wide receiver numbers real quick. Excuse me. The 0.5 on the 2.5 that I mentioned is Jermaine Bishop, another athlete, the 5-star who is the second highest ranked recruit in this Longhorn class right now, a top 30 player in the nation. He could play offense. He could play defense. I think more than likely he's going to end up playing receiver when he gets to Texas. But, for the sake of this exercise, we don't know exactly what he's going to be at the next level. So we're calling him a half because there's a chance he plays defense. But the two true wide receiver commits that Texas has right now, the 4-star Chris Stewart, the 3-star Cohen Brown. I think Texas would like to bring in one more receiver if they can, potentially two if the right fits are out there. But that's where things sit right now for Texas in the class of 2026. So unfortunate blow there. Hopefully, Texas can get some good news tonight and start to turn the tide on recruiting because it feels like there's not a lot of positive momentum going for the Longhorns right now. With all due respect to John Turntine III and Kosi Okpala, those are two great pickups that Texas got last week. But more often than not, the Longhorns have been missing on their top targets who have committed, in the end of June and here in early July. Hopefully that changes. Tonight, 4-star linebacker Braden Rouse will announce his commitment. Texas, Tennessee, Alabama, and Michigan, the 4 finalists here. And it's a Texas-Tennessee battle at this point. It's UT or UT. Will the real UT please stand up? Braden Rouse, the 86th ranked player overall, a top 5 linebacker in this class, 6'2", 6'3", about 220, 225 pounds from the state of Georgia. And Texas was kind of a late entrant into this one. They stormed into the mix for Rouse's recruitment this spring after offering this January. The Longhorns hosted Rouse on an unofficial visit in April, and then he took an official visit to Austin in mid-June. Texas has been prioritizing linebackers in this class. We'll get to that more in a moment, but Rouse is at the top of the list of Texas linebacker targets due to his athleticism. He's only played linebacker for 1 season for his high school team. It was a very, very good season, but it feels like the sky is the limit in terms of where he can be in the next few years as he continues to learn and get more comfortable with that position. You get him here with Texas working with Johnny Nansen and Pete Kwiatkowski. With that athleticism and skill set that he brings to the table, feels like he's got a chance to be a really, really special player if he ends up donning the burnt orange and white. Tennessee has long been considered the team to beat. Braden Rouse has been recruited by Tennessee for a long time. They've got great relationships with him and his family. The good news for Texas, entering decision day, it doesn't sound like Braden Rouse is 100% sold on Tennessee, even though they're the favorite. Doesn't sound like any of the 4 schools that will have hats on the table tonight have any true idea of exactly what Rouse is going to do. He's been very measured. He's kept his cards very close to his vest here. He's talked about pros and cons of each school after each visit that he's been on. And I'm sure he's come to a decision, right? He's announcing here in the matter of hours. But again, he has yet to share that with anybody outside of his family. I assume he's at least told his family, but it sounds like all 4 of those coaching staffs are kind of in the dark right now with what Braden Rouse is going to do. There's been some positive Texas buzz over the last week, and there has been consistent communication with the Longhorns. That we do know. Again, I don't think Sark and company know of Braden Rouse's decision just yet, but there has been some back and forth between the 2 sides over the last 7 days or so. I think all 4 schools will be tuning in tonight. Again, I feel like this is UT or UT. I think Alabama or Michigan are at least going to be paying attention, and I think Alabama and Michigan fans are going to be paying attention to see if maybe there's a little bit of a surprise coming for Braden Rouse. But, man, I think whichever school or maybe all 3 schools that lose on this decision today, they're going to continue to recruit Braden Rouse through the whistle. If Tennessee gets the commit tonight, Texas isn't going to stop pursuing. If Texas gets the commit tonight, this thing isn't over. The Longhorns are going to have to recruit this thing through National Signing Day. That's how close this thing feels right now for Braden Rouse. Obviously, you want to get the commitment tonight. That kind of gives you a leg up on the competition. But if you don't get it tonight, I wouldn't close the door on any chance that Braden Rouse ends up coming to the real UT. He'd be a big hit. Again, top 5 linebacker in the class. You'd be beating a couple of big-time programs and a couple of SEC schools for him. And I mentioned that Texas is prioritizing linebacker in this cycle. Texas hasn't signed a ton of linebackers in recent years, just 3 total in the last 2 classes. You need more than that. The Horns brought in Brad Spence, the transfer from Arkansas this year. He has multiple years of eligibility remaining, so he can be, a bit of a help for the long term. You've got Kosi Okpala committed for 2026 already. Again, a guy who's listed as an edge on most recruiting sites, but a guy who's going to more than likely play linebacker when he gets to Texas. But I think Texas needs 3 to 4 linebackers signed in this class. And I think that's what the coaching staff is trying to do. The Horns missed out on Xavier Griffin. He chose Alabama a couple of weeks ago. Tyler Atkinson, another name that is still out there, a name you recruiting junkies know very well. Think he's trending at Georgia right now, but he did visit Austin this summer. I think he's going to cost more than Braden Rouse. He's a higher rated prospect. I think he's commanding just a larger NIL package. And I think Texas feels really good about Braden Rouse. Like, they don't think there's much of a drop-off between Rouse and Atkinson. Just try to combine both of their names, apparently. But I think Rouse is significantly cheaper, and I don't think there's a significant drop-off in terms of production. So when you're managing a salary cap and you only have X number of dollars that you can spend on a class every year, you've got to kind of manage how you spend your money. And if you can get a supreme player at a significantly lower cost, that's the guy that you might prioritize more in today's NIL era of college football recruiting. So I think Braden Rouse is a stud, 4-star, top 100 player in the country, top 5 linebacker. And I think the fact that he's, again, seemingly a little cheaper than Tyler Atkinson might make him a bit more favorable to Steve Sarkisian and company. Linebacker room for Texas. Again, you talk about the lack of numbers. If Anthony Hill leaves after this year, which I think he will, Leon Galafau, Brad Spence, Anthony Smith, Bo Barnes, Jonathan Cunningham. Those are your scholarship linebackers that will be returning for the 2026 season. So, again, imperative to add multiple, hopefully 3 or 4 LBs in 2026. So hopefully some good news with Braden Rouse. We'll talk about it either way on tomorrow's show. Comment below with your confidence in Texas landing the 4-star linebacker from Georgia. All right, let's shift our focus to the current team, who are the 10 most important Texas football players for the upcoming 2025 season. We're going to separate this into 2 parts. I'll give my first half of the list next, right here on Locked On Longhorns. But first, a word for our friends at Game Time. Have you ever decided that the last minute you want to catch a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day. Maybe it's a couple of hours before first pitch. You're not entirely sure what you're doing that night, and you're thinking, you know what? I want to hit the ballpark to watch my favorite team play. That's where Game Time comes in. The easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without all of the stress and with all the money that you save with Game Time. You could splurge on food, on drinks, on merch. You can even invite a couple of friends to go with you to the game. Game Time makes buying tickets simple and easy. They've taken all the stress out of buying tickets because they have no surprise fees. Prices actually go down the closer you get to first pitch or kickoff or the start of a concert, whatever. And they show you a clear seat view before you buy your ticket. So all of the guesswork that used to go along with purchasing tickets at the last minute, it's all gone thanks to our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege, and you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege, and you're going to get 20% off on that Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Let's talk about the current team. We've spent plenty of time talking recruiting so far this week. We'll continue to do that on future shows, but no, we're, 53 days away from kickoff between Texas and Ohio State. So close, I can taste it. Let's talk about the 10 most important Texas football players for the upcoming season. Not the 10 best, not the 10 guys most likely to be All-Americans or all-conference players, not the 10 guys most likely to be high picks in the NFL draft. No, the 10 most important players for the success of Texas football in 2025. And when I say success, I mean like these guys are going to be instrumental to Texas winning 2 more games than they've won in each of the past 2 years and bringing back a national championship to Austin. 10 dudes who will be imperative to that happening. This was not easy to do, because Texas has a lot of talented players and there are a lot of very important pieces, and you can't win a championship with just 10. So the Horns are going to need contributions from a lot of other people who did not make the cut here. But again, for the sake of time and top 10, that's how most people do their list. We'll just give 10 names, starting with number 10, and we'll work our way to number 1. The 10th most important player for Texas football in 2025, Mason Shipley. The kicker. I know. He's the kicker. But think about how much your kicker cost you last year. Bert Auburn makes another kick. Texas wins the SEC championship in year 1. Go back to the Peach Bowl on January 1st. Bert Auburn makes a kick. Texas doesn't need to convert 4th and 13 in overtime to keep their season alive. That play was sick. Texas ultimately won that game. But Bert Auburn did cost them an SEC championship. Almost cost them the Peach Bowl championship, if you will. And he just wasn't good enough last year. The Texas special teams unit as a whole wasn't good enough, but it started with the kicker, Bert Auburn, having by far and away his worst year as a Texas Longhorn. He's gone. In comes the grad transfer, Mason Shipley, who's got very good numbers over the course of his college career from Texas State. Texas needs him to be great. The Horns are going to be playing in a lot of close games this year. Ohio State week 1. You've got Georgia again. Obviously, if you get back to the college football playoff, there's going to be some close games there. Points are going to be at a premium. You cannot be leaving 3 on the board because you don't have a good kicker. Mason Shipley, assuming he wins the job over Will Stone, my 10th most important Longhorn. Number 9. That's enough special teams, by the way. Number 9, Brandon Baker, the right tackle. The biggest unknown on this Texas offensive line that is replacing 4 starters. Now, we've seen a lot of Trevor Gooseby. We've seen a lot of Cole Hudson. We've seen a lot of DJ Campbell. So 3/5 of the Texas offensive line, I think, are guys that most Texas fans feel pretty good about because we've seen it. Neto Umeozulu at left guard. Got some questions about him. He's a little bit more veteran, and I think right tackle is a more premium position on the offensive line than left guard is. So Brandon Baker, former 5-star, one of the crown jewels of the class of 24, replacing Cam Williams, who we would have loved to have had back, but he decided to leave early to go to the NFL. Brandon Baker at right tackle, very important. Texas O-line, it goes without saying, needs to be good for the Longhorns to have a chance to compete for championships this year. The whole unit is huge, but Brandon Baker, again, the biggest unknown commodity that Texas has up front. He's got to live up to his billing as a 5-star because Texas, they can't have a big step back at right tackle. Number 8, Ryan Wingo, the 5-star receiver, another guy going into his second year with the program. Put up some pretty good numbers as a true freshman last year, but he didn't have to do a whole lot because Texas had Matthew Golden. Texas had Silas Bolden. Texas had Isaiah Bond. There were a number of more experienced receivers that Texas got out of the transfer portal who played bigger roles in 2024. And Steve Sarkisian and Chris Jackson, they keep a pretty tight circle when it comes to their wide receiver rotation. So Ryan Wingo, again, got to play some. We saw flashes of greatness. That 55-yard jet sweep run against Michigan was great in week 2. I would have loved Wingo to have played a little bit more, but because there was so much talent and experience in front of him, he didn't get as many reps and he didn't get as many targets as he's going to get this year, as all 3 of those aforementioned players are now gone from Texas. Ryan Wingo, I think, is the most talented receiver Texas has. And he's got more potential than anybody in the wide receiver room. I think he should be the number 1 receiver on this team this year. No disrespect to DeAndre Moore. I think he's a great player. Excited to see what Emmett Mosley the 5th does. But Ryan Wingo's ceiling, I think, is higher than either of those 2 guys. He's got to live up to that ceiling. He's got to be a reliable number 1 receiving threat for Arch Manning this year for this Texas offense to reach its full potential. So he's number 8. Number 7, Cole Brevard, the defensive tackle transfer coming in from Purdue. Now, Cole Brevard, not a lot of people watch Purdue football, and the Boilermakers have not been very good in recent years. So I don't blame you if you haven't caught a snap of Cole Brevard's college career. But I think this guy is the best of the 5 defensive line transfers that Texas brought in. He's played more than 1,000 snaps in his college career in the Big Ten. So Big Ten and the SEC, they're right there neck and neck as the best conference in college sports. This shouldn't be a huge step up in competition for Cole Brevard. It will be in practice, but in terms of game day, he's gone up against some elite offensive linemen in recent years. He's going to be doing that again. And Texas's run defense has been elite in each of the last 2 seasons. You look at Devondre Sweat and Byron Murphy and Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton, what those guys meant to the Texas defense in 2023 and 2024. Texas can't have some big drop-off in production from the teeth of their defensive line. It's not just Cole Brevard. It's all of the transfers. It's the freshmen. It's Alex January. It's everybody. Everybody has to be good because Texas rotates the hell out of that position. But Cole Brevard, I think, is like he's got the most skins on the wall. He's got the best resume. He's got the most experience. I think he's the guy. I don't expect him to be a first-round pick like Byron Murphy or maybe even day 2 pick like Sweat and Collins and Broughton. But he's got to be very good on the interior of that Texas D-line to make sure that, again, the run defense doesn't become porous in 2025. And number 6, the last one for this segment before we get to the top 5, Anthony Hill. Anthony Hill is the best player on this team. Again, this is not a top 10 player on Texas ranking. This is a most important player for Texas. Maybe Anthony Hill's so low because I just know he's going to be really good and I don't have any questions or doubts or concerns. I mean, he is important. He's the captain of the defense. He's right in the middle of the defense. He's going to be used in a number of different roles this year. He's going to be at SEC Media Days next week. That was just confirmed earlier today. So he's important, but a less premium position, playing off-ball linebacker. And again, just the guy that I can count on. I fully expect him to be really, really good. So maybe that's why Anthony Hill's outside of my top 5, but he's going to be asked to do a lot for PK's defense this year. Okay, speaking of top 5, 5 down, 5 to go. Who are the 5 most important Longhorns for me in 2025? Make sure you're commenting below with your thoughts, but we will finish out my rankings coming up next right here on Locked On Longhorns. All right, final segment on a Tuesday show. It is Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. The top 5 most important Texas football players in 2025. Moving into the top 5, number 5, Trey Wisner, who will be wearing number 5 this year. Hopefully, he looks like the last Texas running back who donned the number 5. That'd be pretty cool. Trey Wisner coming off a 1,000-yard season. You know, you could almost lump the whole running back room here, but I'll go with Trey Wisner because I expect him to be the starter, and I expect him to be the leading ball carrier for Texas this season. A quarterback's best friend is a good running game, and when you're breaking in a new quarterback in the best conference in the sport, you really need to have a reliable, consistent running game. Texas's run game was pretty good last year. It was very good against bad teams. It was not good at all against the best teams that Texas played. Go look at the stats from the 3 losses last year, the 2 to Georgia, the 1 to Ohio State. Texas couldn't get their ground game going at all. Some of that's on the offensive line. Some of that's on the running back. Some of it's on the play calling and the scheme. But regardless, for Texas to take that next step, win those 2 more games, and bring a national championship trophy back to Austin, the run game has to be better. Trey Wisner's the biggest part of that. You got to be more consistent on the ground. Wisner's number 5. Number 4, Manny Muhammad. Now your number 1 corner for Texas. Manny Muhammad gets a bad rap because of what happened in the college football playoff. Manny Muhammad was one of the highest graded corners in the 2024 regular season. Not at Texas, not in the SEC, in the entire country. He was really, really good. In the playoff, things didn't go well, especially in that first-round game against Clemson. Here's the thing with Manny Muhammad. Last year, he was Texas's number 2 corner. So he was going up against a lot of number 2 wide receivers. Jahdae Barron's gone. Your Thorpe Award winner, who was your number 1 guy, going up against a lot of number 1s. He'll be playing on Sundays this fall. That means Manny Muhammad is now your number 1 corner, and he's going to draw those tough assignments against some of the best receivers in the sport. How about Jeremiah Smith in week 1? I hope Texas does what they did against Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl last year, and they used bracket coverage. That worked. Jeremiah Smith had 1 catch for 3 yards, but there will be plays in that game, and there will be obviously instances throughout the long college football season where Manny Muhammad's going to be on an island against some elite wide receivers. He's got to be able to hold his own. Texas's secondary can't go back to being the 23 Texas secondary. You're not going to get away with that in the SEC, and with Ohio State on your schedule, you've got to have an elite secondary again. It'll be tough without Barron. It'll be tough without Makuba, but you've got enough talent back with Taft and Muhammad and a number of other guys in that secondary room to where this should be one of the better units in college football. It won't be if Manny Muhammad isn't a lockdown corner this season. On to the top 3. At number 3, Trevor Goosby, left tackle, protecting Arch Manning's blind side. Arch Manning, your most valuable asset in your program, literally and figuratively. Something happens to him, this whole season is for naught. Trevor Goosby looked great when thrown into action last season. What he did in the A&M game against a very good Aggie defensive line coming in for Kelvin Banks, tremendously impressive. I thought he played pretty well against Georgia. I thought he played pretty well when he came in for Cam Williams against Clemson in the college football playoff game. Trevor Goosby, with a great year, will be gone after this year. Going into his 3rd year of college ball, he has a great season. He could be off to the NFL. And I think if Goosby, is the guy that we hope he is, he could be a 1st-round pick. I don't know if he'll be top 10 like Kelvin Banks, but Trevor Goosby puts it all together this season. Everyone's going to be watching Texas because of Arch Manning, and hell, the Longhorns might be the preseason number 1 team in America. People are going to be locked in to the Longhorns, or locked on, if you will. Trevor Goosby's going to have some chances to impress some folks with his play this year. Premium position at left tackle, one of the highest paid positions in the NFL for a reason. Goosby's got to be great. There can't be a big step back from Banks to Goosby this year. I don't think there will be. Number 2, Colin Simmons. Speaking of premium positions, the most premium position for me on the defensive side of the ball is edge. You need a guy who can get after the opposing quarterback. Colin Simmons is that guy. 9 sacks to lead the Longhorns as a true freshman in 2024. I think he's going to be preseason all-conference next week. You want double-digit sacks. I mean, he's talking about getting close to Kiki Diala's record of like 22 and a half sacks in a single season at Texas. That feels a little ambitious there. If Colin Simmons can get to like 15, I'd be thrilled. Hopefully he takes another step. I cannot wait to see what he does for an encore. But having that elite premier pass rusher just takes a lot of pressure off of the other 10 guys on your defense because he's attracting double teams, which opens things up for the rest of the defensive line. I mean, you've got to coordinate against a guy like Colin Simmons. If he lives up to his potential and is even better in 2025, he's going to be keeping opposing OCs up at night, and he's going to be living in quarterbacks' heads rent-free throughout the year. Hopefully he's good against the run too. Don't get me wrong. That's important. You don't want him to just be third down, pin your ears back kind of guy. But Colin Simmons, if he is that difference maker at pass rusher that Texas hasn't really had the last couple of years, despite all the success the team has had, unless you want to throw Colin Simmons as a difference maker last year, then big things are coming for this Texas defense this coming season. And number 1, the most important Texas football player in 2025, the punter, Jack Boat. No, kidding. It's Arch Manning. Do I need to explain this one? The quarterback's always the most important position and the most important player on your team. When his last name is Manning and the expectations are what they are, the importance is amplified 100-fold. But Arch Manning, the season lives and dies with QB1. If Arch, speaking of guys we want him to be, if Arch is that dude, if he looks like his uncles, and this could be a very, very special 2025 for Texas. If not, it won't be. And Texas will still be really good, but for the Longhorns to win a national championship, I think they need Arch Manning to be something special. Hopefully he can be in his first year as the starting quarterback in Austin. So there's my list from 10 to 1, the most important Texas football players this coming season. What say you? Do you agree with me? Who did I leave out? I know there are a couple of names that just missed the cut. I want to hear from y'all who are the most important Texas football players for you this season. Comment below. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day. For your next listen, be sure to check out the Locked On Portal Show with Brian Smith. Recruiting, transfer portal news, he's got it all, so you can be the most informed college football fan wherever you are. Find the portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. More recruiting conversation on tomorrow's show. Maybe a little SEC Media Days preview coming up as well. Never a dull moment covering the Longhorns, and we've got everything you need right here on Locked On Longhorns. But that'll do it for today. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.